Good morning, everyone. Shun, Ashin, Yeyo. I tried my best to welcome you in Korean. My name is Mariana Castaño Cano, and I am a journalist and climate communicator, and it is my absolute pleasure to be welcoming you today to this second World Global Transparency Forum. Transparency for transformation, strengthening system, driving ambition. That is our mission for these amazing 3 days that we're starting now today. First, I would like to say hi, good morning, afternoon, good evening maybe to the friends who are connecting online on the other side of the Zoom call. Hello to everyone. We would love to have you here with us in beautiful Incheon. Transparency is the backbone of the Paris Agreement. Transparency is the cornerstone of the climate regime. Together with the nationally determined contributions, the Biennial Transparency Report are like two legs that help our global body move towards tackling the climate emergency. We will hear today from our esteemed high-level speakers what is the vision and the political drive that we need to make these two processes just one. And that is why the partners came together in organizing the second edition of the Global Transparency Forum. And I want to very warmly thank all of them: the Global Environment Facility, the GEF, the Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency Global Support Program hosted by the UN Environment Program, ICAT, the Initiative for Climate Action Transparency, PATPA, the Partnership on Transparency in the Paris Agreement, the UN Environment Program, the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the United Nations Development Program, and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, our organizing partners. And I want to thank you, all of them, for trusting me for this amazing role of being your facilitator for three days. And I want also to thank our esteemed host for your hospitality. This forum is graciously hosted by the government of the Republic of Korea through the Ministry of the Environment, with the support from KT, the Korean Institute for Environment and Technology, for environment, industry, and technology. A few bits of information on housekeeping. There is a very good Wi-Fi. You will find the login information on the app, because yes, we have an app. And I'm sure that you, like I did, you were bombarded with emails and with notifications for a good cause. I'm very happy that we have an app that actually works and that everybody seems to be using. I think that promising a prize, it's a good thing to do. So maybe promising a prize to those submitting NDCs, ambitious NDCs, by September can be something to test out. So please download the app, use it. There is a prize for the most active user of the app, and I think we have Mirela from FAO, we have Ket Siwe and other colleagues at the top ranking positions. In the app, you will find all the information, but we will run you through that a little later. I just want to let you know that the forum this year will be organized in this floor, mainly the third floor for all the plenary sessions. And then on the first floor, we have the breakout rooms, but we also have the prayer room, the DSA, and the bazaar. The Transparency Bazaar will take place at the lobby. Here in the third floor, we have this beautiful plenary room, but we also have the lunch room. And that is about the housekeeping. I don't want to take you longer, because I'm very happy to welcome now the opening remarks from our host. Mrs. Dr. Hu He-jong is the Director General of the International Cooperation Bureau here at the Ministry of Environment of Korea. So please, Doctor, the floor is yours. A warm applause for Dr. Hu He-jong.
Excellencies, colleagues. Is it working? Yes. Yeah. Friends, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all. I'm Eun Hye-jung, as International Cooperation Bureau Director General of the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Korea. On behalf of the Ministry of Environment, I extend my warmest welcome to all of you who have joined us here in Songdo for the second Global Transparency Forum. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to the JEF, the UNFCCC Secretariat, UNEP, UNDP, ADB, PATPA, and all partner international organizations and partners whose strong support has made this forum possible. As well-known international city, Songdo brings together international organizations, many international organizations and global businesses, including the headquarters of GCF, Green Climate Fund. And this forum in Songdo provides a really meaningful opportunity to strengthen credibility in global climate governance and to explore new avenue of collaboration for enhancing transparency. I heard that the first forum held in Tokyo last year served as a platform for collaboration and information exchange to support the submission of the first Biennial Transparency Reports. This year, we gather again, not just building on that progress, but to share our experiences, foster mutual trust, and lay a stronger foundation for continued cooperation. I myself gained many valuable lessons and insights in preparing and submitting Korea's first BTR. I'm also serving as a technical expert review under the UNFCCC. These experiences convinced me that transparency is not only a reporting procedure, but also a process of building trust and demonstrating credibility to the international community. Ladies and gentlemen, the climate change is a shared challenge that we tackle together. Transparency, accuracy, completeness, comparability, and consistency. You know about this TACCC principle, right? These are the 5 principles for accounting greenhouse gas inventory and also the NDC. And I think transparency is basically about trust and accountability. To know where we stand in terms of the implementation of NDC and achieving our Paris goal together, we need the enhanced transparency. With this, we can build mutual trust and strengthen cooperation. I hope that this knowledge and insights exchanged at this forum will not only guide national policies, but also contribute to restoring trust across the international community. Over the next 3 days, I hope that this forum also serves as an invaluable opportunity for delegates from many countries and the colleagues from the international organizations, the partners together from around the world to deepen our mutual understanding and friendship. Once again, I sincerely thank all of you, distinguished delegates and participants, for taking the time to join us. I hope that your participation and commitment will light the way toward a sustainable future together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jung, and thank you to your team. They were super helpful. They have been super helpful and efficient in helping us organize the forum. And now I would like to invite the representative of the UN system, who will be speaking on behalf of the UN family, Mr. Gambold Basanjab, head of UN ESCAP East and Northeast Asia Office. Please, a warm welcome.
Esteemed Director General Eun Hye-jung of the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Korea, distinguished guests and colleagues, Very good morning, and thank you for joining us today. It is a privilege for me to welcome such a dedicated group of stakeholders who share a common goal, advancing climate transparency for a more sustainable and accountable future. Climate transparency is not just a technical matter. It is a cornerstone of trust, cooperation, and progress in our global climate response. In today's world of urgent climate impacts, transparency ensures that commitments translate into action, data guides decisions, and no one is left behind. United Nations has long recognized the importance of climate transparency. Under the Paris Agreement's Enhanced Transparency Framework, ETF, countries report on greenhouse gas emissions, track progress on their nationally determined contributions, and share information in consistent and comparable ways. The submission of the Biennial Transparency Report, BTR, at the end of 2024, has been a key milestone in providing accountability for climate action and support, strengthening global understanding, and fostering mutual trust. Across the UN system, agencies including UNFCCC, UNEP, ESCAP, UNDP, and FAO provide technical assistance to build national capacities, integrate reporting into planning, strengthen systems such as measurement reporting and verification, and monitoring and evaluation, and promote regional peer learning. This work is supported by critical financing from partners such as the Global Environment Facility, GEF. UN is not alone in this effort. International initiatives, including the Initiative for Climate Action Transparency and the Partnership on Transparency in the Paris Agreement, in ADB, further enhance capacities with tools and methodologies that make climate data more accessible and actionable. We also acknowledge with the gratitude the valuable support provided by the governments of Australia, Belgium, the Republic of Korea, and Japan, whose support has helped many developing countries advancing ETF implementation. These partnerships remind us that transparency is not the task of one country alone, but a shared journey built on trust and solidarity. In this spirit, the Global Transparency Forum, jointly organized by these partners, emerges as a vital initiative. The Global Transparency Forum harmonizes efforts, bridges gaps, and promotes coherence across support. It brings together developing countries, donors, and support providers to take stock of ETF implementation, discuss challenges, and share best practices. Importantly, it ensures that climate information is not only available, but usable and impactful. On behalf of the UN and all our partners, I warmly thank the government of the Republic of Korea through the Ministry of Environment for supporting and hosting this forum over the next 3 days. As we begin today's discussions, let us remember that transparency is not an end in itself, but a means to build trust, drive ambition, and empower action. I invite you all to engage openly and collaborate fully. Thank you once again for your presence and commitment. Let's make this forum another meaningful step forward in our collective journey towards climate transparency. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bassenjab. So we need usable and impactful, meaningful transparency, not just transparency per se. Thank you very much to the colleagues for moving away the lectern. So now we are going to start, after these wonderful opening remarks, the high-level dialogue. And it is an absolute delight to now pass the mic on to a friend and a former colleague, Tugba Ikmeli, who is team lead at the Transparency Division at UN Climate Change, the UNFCCC Secretariat. Please let's welcome Tugba.
So good morning, and actually, so I also would like to welcome you all to the Global Transparency Forum on behalf of my organization, the UNFCCC. And good morning, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, and dear friends. So it is my pleasure now to start with the high-level segment of the Global Transparency Forum. This segment will serve as a political platform, first to celebrate our collective progress and achievements. We have done a lot. And then the segment will also help to highlight the leadership and reinforce commitment to sustaining and deepening transparency efforts as an enabler to the goals of the Paris Agreement. So at this high-level segment, we will have two parts. First, a political segment showcasing political leadership and reinforcing global commitment to transparency, particularly at this critical moment in the lead up to COP30 Belém, featuring some keynote remarks from political and institutional leaders. Then, as a second part, we will have a moderated panel discussion featuring the role of support providing institutions in strengthening national transparency arrangements and enhancing ambition with financial and technical support for capacity building of implementation. Now, without further ado, I would like to start with the political segment. To begin, we will hear video messages from some of our leaders who, unfortunately, will not be able to be with us in person today, but they wanted to share their reflections and commitments. And following the videos, we will be also honored to welcome in-person interventions from, again, key political leaders here with us today. Each intervention, in my opinion, will offer a unique perspective on how we can translate political will into concrete action. To begin, it is my honor to invite a message from my Executive Secretary of the United Nations Climate Change Secretariat, Simon Steele.
Excellencies, honourable ministers, colleagues, dear friends, I'm honoured to join the Global Transparency Forum, and I thank the government of the Republic of Korea for its continued leadership on this cornerstone of climate action. This meeting takes place at a decisive moment. Transparency has moved beyond a technical exercise. It is a vital enabling tool for all countries. It helps governments and indeed whole economies to build a stronger evidence base, driving more ambitious climate policies over time, unlocking access to climate finance, and accelerating progress toward development goals. To date, more than 100 nations have submitted their first biennial transparency reports, or BTRs. By doing so, these governments have made a very smart investment, because compiling strong climate data enables more inbound investment and stronger policies that reap the huge benefits of the global shift to clean energy and climate resilience. Stronger economic growth, more jobs, better health and much lower health costs, more affordable and secure energy, and rising living standards. These reports represent years of effort to build systems, mobilize expertise, and institutionalize climate reporting. Many countries are using their transparency reports to identify urgent needs for finance, technology, and capacity building, while also highlighting innovative approaches in adaptation, from new sources of finance to inclusive governance structures or locally driven resilience metrics. This is the impact of transparency. It accelerates ambition, sharpens policy, and strengthens the case for investment. The Enhanced Transparency Framework, or ETF, may have been the quiet achiever of the Paris Agreement, But let me speak loud and clear about how proud I am of what my Secretariat team have delivered, because the progress made and the benefits delivered are significant. More than 10,000 experts from over 140 developing countries have taken part in ETF training and peer exchanges. Over 1,200 experts are now certified BTR reviewers. Over 1,400 national officials are using ETF tools to compile and submit their reports. Where gaps remain, and the Paris Agreement Implementation and Compliance Committee has identified 37 parties still missing one or more mandatory ETF reports, we'll work with parties on their capacity and resource constraints. No country can be left behind. The BTR synthesis report, to be released ahead of COP30, will deliver a valuable early picture of implementation progress by countries across mitigation, adaptation, and support. It will offer initial insights into diverse national efforts to implement the Paris Agreement, including some of the barriers that must be overcome and the successes that can be built upon. It will also be a crucial input in forming the next global stocktake. The report will be released prior to COP30 in Brazil, which itself will have a strong focus on driving implementation in the real economy to the benefit of real people everywhere. Indeed, bringing our COP process closer to real economy implementation will be a defining feature of this next decade of global climate action. So make no mistake, the ETF and the evidence base built by these reports will be vital to getting the Paris machinery into top gear. Colleagues, we often say, what gets measured gets managed. But let me take it further. What is measured can be acted upon. What is reported helps build trust and collaboration, and what is shared becomes a force for change. So looking to COP30, we must keep transparency central to climate ambition, support all countries to reap the benefits of meeting their reporting goals, and turn insights into faster progress on implementation. I commend this forum as a vital moment to help turn reporting into stronger real-world results and transparency into transformation. I thank you.
Colleagues, now we turn to the CEO of the Global Environment Facility, Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, with his video message.
Dear colleagues and friends, it's a pleasure to join you all by video today. My name is Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, and I'm the CEO of the Global Environment Facility. And let me begin by thanking the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Korea for hosting this important forum. And thank you all, the representatives of government, transparency experts and partners here today for the commitment and the collaboration into this process. At the Global Environment Facility, we are proud to support this forum through capacity building initiative for transparency. This gathering shows how far we come and how transparency is driving transformation. We started with a small technical workshop just a few years ago, and now we have a big brand, community learning by doing, sharing solutions, and advancing the enhanced transparency framework from UNFCCC. This forum comes at a critical time in our life. The first biennial transparency report marked a major milestone, and countries are preparing the next generation of NDCs. The link between transparency and ambition has never been clearer. That's why the GEF remain fully committed to helping countries meet their transparency requirements under Article 13 of the Paris Agreement. systems that inform policy, unlock finance, and support credible, actionable climate targets are in the line with national priorities. I wish you a productive and energizing few days here in Songdo. The insights and partnership forged here will help shape success at COP30 in Berlin and beyond. Thank you so much.
Now we will hear from Honorable Ed Miliband, Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change of the United Kingdom.
On behalf of the UK government, I wanted to send this message to underline the importance of the discussions you're having today at the Global Transparency Forum. And I want to thank the UNFCCC, the government of the Republic of Korea, and all the organizers of this incredibly important event on the road to COP30. Let me make 3 brief points in my contribution to this session. First, the starting point for the UK is that transparency is absolutely central to delivering on the goals of the Paris Agreement. As we think about the progress we have made as a world and the task ahead of us, transparency is absolutely critical to building trust between countries, accelerating action, and mobilizing climate finance. Indeed, as the Paris Agreement recognizes, transparency is the foundation of multilateral cooperation on climate. And that's why it's so important that we all double down on implementing the enhanced transparency framework in these decisive years for global action. The second point I wanted to make is that in the UK, we are committed to seeking to lead by example on these issues. Last year, we were proud to submit our first biennial transparency report alongside many other countries represented at the forum today. In May, I was pleased to welcome a team of 10 experts to London to conduct the technical expert review of our first report and to drop in and speak to them about the review which will be published later this year. And I want to underline that the UK has learned a huge amount from this process and indeed from our participation in UNFCCC transparency processes over many years. This has supported our policy making and our target setting, including the new 1.5 degree aligned NDC to reduce emissions by at least 81% by 2035, which was announced by the Prime Minister at the COP29 last year. Third, I know the UK is far from alone in implementing the new reporting framework, and I want to commend the work of all those involved in driving progress on transparency, many of whom are there with you today. As we look ahead to COP30 in just a few months' time, we know the scale of the task ahead of us as countries submit new 2035 NDCs, drive action on issues from energy to finance to forests, and face up to the challenge of adapting to the climate impacts we see all around us. And transparency will continue to play an incredibly important role in accelerating the action we need across each of those areas. So let me end by saying this. Thank you for all the work you are doing. I hope you have productive discussions over the coming days, and I look forward to seeing many of you later this year in Belém for COP30.
Now our next message is coming from Yevgeny Zhukov, Director General of the Asian Development Bank.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, partners and friends, the Asian Development Bank is honored to join this high-level segment of the Global Transparency Forum. At ADB, our mission is to achieve a prosperous, inclusive, resilient and sustainable Asia and Pacific. Climate change threatens every dimension of that vision, and we have responded with meaningful commitments. ADB's Climate Change Action Plan for 2023 to 2030 sets our approach to supporting low-carbon and climate-resilient development. We aim to deliver over $100 billion in cumulative climate finance from our own resources between 2019 and 2030 to ensure that at least 50% of our annual commitments support climate change action by 2030. But ambition must be matched by accountability. Transparency is not only about reporting on our obligations, it is also the bridge between commitments and outcomes. It is the foundation for ambition, accountability, and climate action the world urgently needs. In ADB, we are deeply committed to supporting our developing member countries across the Asian Pacific to strengthen their transparency arrangements related to climate change. We see firsthand how credible country-owned data drives integrated cross-ministerial climate planning, embeds climate priorities to national strategies and development pathways, and unlocks financing. This year marks a turning point. The first full cycle of the enhanced transparency framework is now underway. At the same time, countries face the collective imperative to submit new, more ambitious NDCs. Across the region, EDB is working closely with our developing member countries to build robust country-owned transparency systems. For example, in Azerbaijan, we supported the Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources to prepare and submit its biennial transparency report ahead of COP29. In Sri Lanka, we helped design an integrated measuring, reporting, and verification system for the energy and waste sectors. In Mongolia, we supported climate finance tracking linked to their green taxonomy. And in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, we are helping to strengthen measuring, reporting, and verification systems to prepare for the emissions trading and Article 6 engagement. This is complemented by our ongoing support to 16 developing member countries on the NDCs fleet. Colleagues, transparency builds trust. It enables countries to seize opportunities for climate investment, access concessional finance, and pursue just transition. Multilateral development banks working together must continue to harmonize approaches to climate finance tracking and impact measurement, so transparency becomes a global enabler of ambition. As we look forward to COP30, EDB reaffirms its full support for the transparency agenda. We stand ready to deepen collaboration with all partners to accelerate climate action. Thank you.
And now, to conclude this series of recorded interventions, we now will hear from COP30 incoming presidency, Tullio Andrade, senior representative of the presidency.
A great pleasure to be addressing you, the Global Transparency Forum, on behalf of the Brazilian incoming COP30 presidency. The work that you're going to be doing in the next couple of days is going to be fundamental to not only demonstrate that the Paris Agreement cycle is fully working, it's fully on motion, but also what can we do further to improve this and to accelerate the implementation of the Paris Agreement with a view to COP30. Transparency, it's at the very core of not only climate implementation, but also climate cooperation. It's a fundamental piece in how countries come together to join forces around the achievement of the Paris Agreement long-term goals on temperature, resilience, and international financial flows. And we very much appreciate the work that all countries are doing behind the biennial transparency reports, their nationally determined contributions, and their national adaptation plans. Now, the challenge that we have before us is to really strengthen multilateralism, to connect the process to people's real lives, and to accelerate the implementation of the Paris Agreement so that our results can be faster and a bigger scale than global warming, so that we can positively transform our societies, our economies, in a way that will be faster than the negative impacts of climate change. Transparency is not only about knowing where we are, it's also about the future, it's also about prosperity, it's also about promise. And you can please count on the Brazilian COP30 incoming presidency to make through the spirit of the Paris Agreement of cooperation, of action, and ambition. Thank you.
Colleagues, with that, now we turn to our distinguished speakers who are with us in the room. whose presence today also underscores the importance of dialogue and collaboration at this crucial moment. First, I am delighted to welcome Mr. Shahin Shahyarov, Senior Representative of the COP29 Presidency.
Good morning. Okay, but I don't need it, I think. Okay, thank you. Good morning. 안녕하세요. 오늘 한국에서 우리는 초대해 주세요. 감사합니다. Thank you for hosting us in Korea today, and I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the government of South Korea for hosting this important event. Yeah, I know a little bit Korean because I have studied in Korea for like 15 years ago, so I do have some knowledge in Korean. And also I would like to thank to all the partners who are contributing to this important event and their efforts in advancing global climate transparency. And I'm honored to represent the COP29 presidency at this important event and to see the BTP, Baku Global Transparency Platform, which is the flagship initiative of the COP29 among the partners of this event. I mean the high-level panel of this event. Dear colleagues, as you know, COP29 achieved a significant milestone in the collective climate efforts, marking an important step towards a global fight against climate change. And we had a unique opportunity and responsibility to guide global climate negotiation toward actionable outcomes, and we all together delivered the successful results and outcomes. And from the very beginning of our presidency term, we have prioritizing the advancing global climate transparency and fostering trust and confidence among countries and among nations. And we recognize the critical role of the transparency in tracking progress on mitigation, adaptation, and means of implementation, as well as the challenges the countries faced in preparing their first BTRs. And as it's well known, the COP29 presidency launched its Baku Global Transparency Platform, the BTP, to assist countries in preparing their first BTRs and achieving full implementation of the ETF. And with the support of the international organizations and our partners and the countries, COP29 presidency organized a series of workshops under the BTP across various regions of the world and ensured that no country left behind. And also the BTP laid a strong foundation to keep policymakers engaged in the implementation of ETF. And we particularly aim to contribute to the ongoing efforts of the developing country parties to prepare and finalize the BTRs and achieve full implementation of the ETF. And we also elevate the climate transparency to the highest political level during the COP by hosting a high-level event on global climate transparency. And this event served to recognize and commend early BTR submissions, express our appreciation for these valuable efforts, and provide a platform to amplify the voices of all countries. And as an outcome of the event, Baku Declaration on Global Climate Transparency was adopted, recognizing climate transparency as a cornerstone of the climate action, highlighting the importance of the ETF, as well as support to developing countries in their BTR preparation. And Azerbaijan demonstrated leadership at COP29 by submitting its own BTR ahead of deadline, and we are grateful to all countries that submitted their BTRs by the deadline and reaffirming their commitment to global climate action and transparency. And to date, as I understand, more than 100 countries have submitted their BTRs. And on behalf of the COP29 presidency, I would like to sincerely thank all of these countries and all the international organizations for their active support in helping countries prepare and submit their first BTRs. And also we understand the challenges in this process, including the financial constraints in the technical expert review process and the need to strengthen the capacity of local experts and full implementation of ETF. To address these, COP29 presidency organized an event during the SB 62 session in Bonn to review process, share what presidency has done, and give countries a platform to raise their challenges. From this exchange, we understood that some challenges still remain, and COP29 presidency is committed to supporting countries through BTP. And in this regard, we are planning to organize another workshop in Baku later this year with the support of international organization, our colleagues from UNFCCC Secretariat, and to further assist countries in preparing the BTRs. And also in next COP, like in COP30, we are planning to have a ministerial high-level dialogue on transparency together with the COP30 presidency, UNFCCC Secretariat, and the partners to celebrating the first ETF cycle in Belém. And we do believe this high-level dialogues on transparency should evolve into annual feature of COPs, and ensuring transparency remains as a central role in the climate agenda. I thank you, and once more wish you a successful event forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scherer, for your very important remarks and the information you shared with us on the way forward as well. So now, please join me in welcoming Henry Gonzalez, Chief Investment Officer of the Green Climate Fund.
Good morning, everyone. 안녕하세요. Coming almost last after so many very distinguished speakers, it's really hard to see how could I bring something new from what has already been said. So let me try my best, as I would like to make sure that we leave you all who's going to be working for the next 3 days with better material. So the Green Climate Fund is also based here in Sondo. So this is our home, and we are very, very grateful to the Republic of Korea for hosting us here. We are the largest multilateral climate fund, and we are supporting countries, and we are partnering with a lot of those entities listed here on how we can really bring about change in regards to the climate challenge and the climate crisis. I guess a lot of you have been working with us on our readiness program. We have a window where we are providing every 4 years countries with up to $4 million to address its enabling environment and make sure that they could access funding, and that they could also, as Mr. Steele said, make an investment today that is going to really have a high return. And the readiness program is a tool that we are providing in order to also enhance transparency. And we hope, and my colleague from the readiness teams are going to be joining you throughout these sessions to make sure that countries are really tapping those resources, and that those resources are allowing countries to really match the ambition in their climate action, but also in their enhanced transparency. I believe it is indeed important to celebrate milestones. Sometimes in this very difficult journey of climate action, sometimes we see things almost impossible. But I also believe that quick wins must be celebrated. And I think the fact that we are closing an important cycle of these transparency reports, and that we are also with that big task of countries presenting new NDCs in September, this is an opportunity to celebrate what has been done, to also learn that political will can really be turned into action, that international cooperation can make things happen. I also think that sometimes, as we prepare, we feel that maybe we are putting too much weight on reporting or putting too much weight on reports. But this is not the case. Transparency is not a reporting tool. Transparency is a tool of transformation. It's a tool of being accountable. It's a tool of also understanding the gaps and trying to see how we can get partners to support in what we're trying to do. The climate finance architecture is indeed very fragmented. And this is something that we all need to work together in order to find ways of complementing and find coherence in what we do. We're trying to do this in the so-called vertical funds, working with the GEF, working with the Adaptation Fund, working with CIF and the GCF, and now the Loss and Damage Fund, to make sure that we come together, that we propose tools to our countries who are facing the biggest challenges, especially those that are most vulnerable. Our Executive Director, Mafalda Duarte, made an ambitious pledge in her first intervention at the UNGA when she took the mandate in 2023, where she said that she would like to see GCF implementing impactfully 50 billion by 2030. This would allow a big shift on how we operate, but I believe this is possible, and this ambition is possible because we believe that the needs are just immense, and GCF has catalytic capital to allow others to come in with us. We're not going to be able to provide the trillions, but we're going to be able to provide transformative billions in order to reach those trillions. I would really like to thank all the organizers for having us here today in these remarks, but I would also, challenge you all to continue challenging us. We really need to hear from your voices of how GCF can work better. I know in the past there's been clear, calls for easing access of our funding, and we've been working on a transformational agenda by integrating how we operate, by working in regions. The board has approved regional presence, so we would like to be closer to our partners in the regions, and this is something that we hope to see soon, a decision on where we're going to be working. We will remain headquartered in this beautiful city of Sondo, but we want to be in every single region where we operate, close to our partners, trying to deliver climate action. Be bold in your discussions, be ambitious in what you want to achieve, and I wish you a great forum, and thank you for the opportunity to address in these welcoming remarks. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for the very motivating remarks. And from my part, I will also be accepting this challenge and will be putting more countries in touch with you for further action and ambition. Now, we are pleased to hear from Dr. In-hae Chung, Director General from the Ministry of Environment and Republic of Korea.
Hello again, thank you. Already, I'm very honored to be part of this high-level session with the esteemed colleagues, especially the Presidency COP29 and COP30. Again, like the colleague from GCF, I don't know how I can value-added remarks on, because everything already is said, but I just wanted to share experience when I prepared Korea's first BTR. Before I take my office here in the International Cooperation Bureau, I was the president of Greenhouse Gas Inventory and Research Center, and that organization was in charge of the preparation process of Korea's BTR. And I often explain this way to other colleagues of the Ministry of, for example, Industry and Energy and Minister of Agriculture. BTR, they first heard about the BTR, so I just explained this way. If NDCs are promises that Korea want to keep, BTR are the fact check to see whether those promises were kept or not. So they understood what BTR and the importance of BTR. And as of today, I've heard that the 112 countries already submitted their BTR, but I just want to say that the preparing BTR was not an easy task, even for Korea. At first, we wanted to use some flexibility in terms of the greenhouse gas emission statistics, because 2 years before, I submitted 2000 last year, but there was 3 years gap of the greenhouse gas statistics, because takes 2 years to finalize, and we want to translate the greenhouse gas statistics into English, so it had one more year. But at the last minute, we decided not use any flexibility. So, and also Korea, in terms of the greenhouse gas statistics, we transitioned from using 1996 guideline to 2005 IPCC guideline. It also makes a huge challenge for Korea. And it was possible to the hard work of the colleagues in the GIR and many other national institutes on energy, industry, agriculture, and so on. And as the head of the GIL and the team, in drafting this report, that reminded me that actually you need to communicate with the other institutes, other ministry. Most of you are from, I think, the Ministry of Environment, but you need to communicate with the other industry because they have lots of the data and they have lots of the information. So that was very essential for the success. And I was able to comprehensively, but preparing BTR was it was a challenge for Korea, but it was also huge opportunity to enhance our transparency. We gather more data from other ministries, so that we can understand comprehensively the climate change status in Korea and update our data with the latest information. And also it allowed us to reassess the strengths and the shortcomings of our policies and to clarify the challenges that must be addressed to moving forward. And I'd like to comment about the international cooperation and support as the readiness program by GCF and the ADB funding, everything, and of course the Azerbaijan's, the Baku transparency platform. In addition to those the support, Korea is also committed to sharing our experiences with the international community by capacity building in developing countries. And previously I worked for the GIL. GIL has been operating capacity building program on national inventories and MRV with the UNFCCC and PATPA. And the Korea Adaptation Center has supported developing countries in preparing their national adaptation plans. And such initiative, we want to work more on those the support. And I'd like to end my remarks by how Korea is preparing for Korea's next 2035 NDC and preparation for the COP30. Because this year is the 10 years anniversary of the Paris Agreement, and we want to make a huge success in Berlin in COP30. I think with the first round of BTR, they now submitted, as Simon already mentioned, that they are preparing the BTR synthesis report. I think based on the data on the BTR is really a background for the next round of the NDC. And Korea also use this transparency, the data that we collected through in preparation of BTR as a tool for driving policy innovation and strengthening the implementation. Last year, Korea also started preparation for the 2035 NDC. I was as on the president of GIR, I was in charge of the technical preparation for the 2035 NDC. But as you know, last year, Korea has the political turmoil. So now new government came into power 4th of this June. So with new Minister of Environment, my minister, we started all again because we want to make our 2035 NDC more ambitious and more actionable and more aligned with our goals, our collective goal as the Paris goal. So President Lee Jae-myung put huge emphasis on renewable energy deployment and the building stronger grid. We call it the energy highway. And also we put some lots of efforts in the renewable 100 industry hub so that you can the produced renewable energy can be used wisely. In this way, the Korea will strive not only to achieve our own NDC targets, but also to contribute the internationally agreed commitments, transitioning to concrete actions. And distinguished delegates, I really hope that today's discussion will go beyond dialogue, reaffirm our political will, and serve as a milestone to the road to a successful COP30 and achieving our Paris goal together. Korea will continue to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Song, and I also would like to truly appreciate our collaboration, your leadership in implementing the ETF, as well as your leadership in South-South cooperation. That means a lot, and it is always great to hear from a country perspective. It resonates a lot with all the participants here today with us, I believe. So, and to very briefly kind of echo, like from all the leaders, I mean, we heard very strong political messages and commitments, and what still echoes in my mind is like the keywords: accountability, ambition, action, transformation, collaboration, investment. So they are all under the umbrella of the enhanced transparency framework. And now I think it is a very good time to switch to our panel discussion, where we will hear more from the institutions, the leading institutions that provide financial and technical support for implementing the ETF as well as the NDCs. And their role is pivotal in strengthening national transparency arrangements, ensuring ambition is backed with resources, and supporting countries to implement the ETF and the NDCs. Now, yes, now we have the floor set as well, thank you. And now let me welcome our panel members, please, with an applause perhaps. Dear Esteban from Global Environmental Facility. Esha Lessos, Head of GEF Climate Mitigation Unit of the UNEP. Claudio Ortiz, Lead Technical Support on NDC and Climate Strategies of UNDP. Mirella Salvatore, Senior Climate Change Expert of the FAO. And Dr. Henning Wister, Director of the ICAT. Okay, since I don't have a seat, I can just stay here, perhaps. Actually, colleagues, a very warm welcome to you, first of all, for joining us today. And actually, this panel will not be complicated because I only have one question to you all. And also, because of the time we have left with, I will really encourage you, please, if you can keep your intervention around 5 minutes. And because if time allows, I would really like to have some brief Q&A session with the audience. But of course, I think it is very important what we will hear from you to kick off our discussions. So here is the question. What is the role of your institution in strengthening the national transparency arrangements in the countryside and enhancing ambition with financial and technical support for capacity building and implementing the ETF? And to begin, first I would like to invite Esteban, actually, the representative from the Global Environmental Facility. Over to you, Esteban, please. You have the floor.
Thank you, Tugba. And first of all, I would like to thank the government of Korea through the Ministry of Environment for hosting this event. It was in one of our GEF Council meetings that representatives from Korea approached us, and from there the conversation continued to host this event. So I'm very happy to see it as a reality right now, and congratulate all the people behind it, because I know it's a lot of work, and thank all the partners, and especially all the participants that are here, many of which have traveled a long way to be here. So in the case of the GEF, being one of the operating entities of the financial mechanism, our main role is to help countries access our financing and to provide it. In the case of climate change transparency per se, our role is quite clear, actually. We have to help countries prepare the reporting obligations to the convention. So we do it through the BTRs and the national communications. But we also received the mandate through the Paris Agreement to establish the CBIT, the Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency, that strengthens or creates capacities in the country, and also institutional arrangements under Article 13 of the Paris Agreement. So these two parts are complementary, and it's a continuous process. We have countries right now that have graduated from their first CBIT, and then are requesting support for a second one, and we see the evolution in the way in which they prepare this. Now, the GEF, perhaps one of our distinctive characteristics is that we serve different multilateral environmental agreements. So we also do this in climate change, biodiversity, land degradation, and so on. So we also see this intersectionality, this diversity that is not only climate change in isolation. So how transparency can serve not only for climate change decision making, but also for all the pressing needs that the countries have. So we see great value in it, and also by exchanging with the countries. And actually, in some of the projects that we finance, beyond the enabling activities or CBIT, we see the transparency DNA. So we have multifocal, we call them, so projects that are not only climate change, but can be climate change and biodiversity, but have a transparency DNA in which it helps to improve modeling or to use tracking to align countries with their NDCs or their long-term strategies, and also linking it with other focal areas. So it's a bit of everything of what we do. And the last thing is like how we do it, and it's basically with all the people that is here. So we receive guidance through the COPs, which steer the way in which we work, but also through the coordination with our agencies, with our partners. We're very happy to see here that is a joint event in which different support providers are here in an event related to transparency. So for us, it's very important, this coordination, so we optimize resource allocation and help countries address their main needs. So I'll stop there, and happy to answer any questions, and thank you again.
Thank you, Esteban. Actually, I think it is great that you're also in a very well situated to explore the synergies with the other Rio conventions, and it gives a great opportunity for all of us to find these kind of efficiency areas. I think that's a great point. And I think through the COP and conferences, yes, you are always receiving this guidance from the parties and from the colleagues already here in this room, I believe. And from my own perspective, I see you're also taking on all these guidance, and you have done a lot in terms of streamlining your processes, simplifying the processes as well. But of course, there's always room for improvement. I think that will continue. Sorry, thank you. And I also would like to highlight that there's always a call from parties to have direct dialogues with the GEF. So I think I also invite you, all participants here, to use this opportunity and to find Esteban and have this direct connection with him whenever you can find some time. So thank you for your remarks. Now, let me welcome Escher. I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly to respond to the question. Do I need to repeat it? You have it, okay.
No, can you hear me there? Microphones.
Closer, maybe, a bit
Closer. Yes, no, the question was clear. Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. And again, I'd like to extend, firstly, my appreciation of UNEP to the Ministry of Environment of Korea for hosting us here and supporting this event, and also to all the co-organizers of this event, bringing together the family around transparency for these next few days. I think in terms of United Nations Environment Programme, when we talk about what's our role, I think firstly it is that as we are the UN entity mandated on environment within the UN system, is to highlight what's the environmental context, why are we all here? And to quote the UN Secretary General, we are facing a triple planetary crisis. On climate change, 2024 was the hottest year ever recorded. And in fact, it was the year that we passed 1.5 degrees. We've overshot, so we've now got to think about how we bring the temperature back down. And 3 of the months last year were the hottest ever on record. Secondly, in this triple planetary crisis, we're talking about biodiversity. And the WWF has a study that says that since 1970, we've lost 73%. We've had a 73% reduction in biodiversity. And to continue the bad news or the negative news on this triple planetary crisis, when we look at pollution, air pollution, soil pollution, water pollution, and I was reading The Guardian just the other day that they're saying that we now breathe in 68,000 microparticles of plastic every day. And we've gone from 2 million tons of plastic waste in 1950 to 450 million tons. So it's a 200 plus increase. So the context is quite grim that we're facing, but it's important as UN Environment to continue to highlight this, advocate for this, but highlight that through the initiatives that we're undertaking on climate, on biodiversity, on chemicals and waste, we have an opportunity to create jobs and enhance well-being for all of us here. And transparency, again, is obviously the backbone around that, as highlighted this morning. I think not only for climate, but also with positive co-benefits for biodiversity and also air pollution, soil and water as well. I think our second role then is very much to continue advocating for work on transparency, going beyond the support through the GEF, but that's been talked about this morning, so I won't go into that again. But then I think the third point I'd like to highlight, together with colleagues from UNDP and FAO, is that we help countries access the funds from the GEF and translate those funds into action on transparency. And I think it was very helpful to hear from our colleague from Korea this morning about concrete country experiences and the challenges that are faced. And when we hear from Korea, who has such strong industry and capacity, Samsung, Hyundai, Kia, other industries that we know so much about, we think Korea is a real strong country technically in many aspects. They face challenges transferring from 1997 guidelines to 2003 of the IPCC or working through the tiers. And we're thinking about other countries as well who perhaps aren't in the same developmental status or status of Korea facing the challenges they're facing. And that's very much what the role of UNEP and FAO and UNDP is about, is helping countries navigate this journey, building capacity, finding ways that it isn't temporary capacity, but institutional capacity. And I was reading a quote from the incoming COP presidency from the COP president, Andre Correa, saying that we have to move from ad hoc work on transparency, where we hire a consultant to come in and help us write the report, right? We all agree on that. We need to move away from that. Consultants, if you're out there, you're a dying breed, because in the future, the countries won't need you anymore. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what we all hope in a way. But we need to move from ad hoc to government-led, systemic, and institutionalized work on transparency. I like that a lot. And I think, though, moving beyond systematic, but to systemic as well. So talking about how we can work across the government. The GEF always tells us we have to talk about policy coherence and working across ministries, and I think that's fundamental if you want to have success on transparency. So I think with that, thank you so much, and looking forward to the next few days and working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Escher. And I also believe, like, especially institutionalizing the systems are the key, because once you have all the arrangements in place, actually the BTRs, the implementation, tracking, everything is a byproduct that you will have it very easily. And it is really good to hear that you're also motivating countries to go to more programmatic approaches, because exactly that is what we need in the long run to have a more sustainable implementation, I believe. Thank you for the important remarks. Now I would like to invite my dear friend as well, Claudia Ortiz, to share her reflections on behalf of UNDP. Claudia.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, thank you, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I really, again, also want to join others in thanking the government of Korea for hosting us in these 3 days. Very important event. We've been working on it for quite some time. It's magnificent to make it seem a reality already, at least to have everybody in the room. So a lot has been said about how transparency is a cornerstone of the Paris Agreement. And I just want to start with that concept, because for UNDP, our mission on climate is really to make the Paris Agreement work. It's very simple, but if we unpack that, there's quite a bit under it. So first of all, at the request of the Secretary General since last year, UNDP has been spearheading the UN system-wide effort, along with the NDC partnership, to support the countries in the development and the submission of the third generation of national determined contributions, or NDCs, ahead of COP30. To date, we are able to say that we are deploying direct support to 100 countries and territories in the development of NDC 3.0. UNDP is also the implementer of the largest portfolio on climate action, adaptation, and mitigation on the ground of the UN system, supporting over 140 countries with a portfolio that reaches $2 billion in grants, mostly from the Global Environment Facility and the Green Climate Fund that we heard from this morning, as well as the Adaptation Fund and some bilateral as well. So it is on top of this foundation that we build our transparency offer. And in this case, we are not only an implementing agency of the GEF to support countries in accessing critical funds to be able to develop their reports and be able to comply with the reporting obligations under the convention and have capacity building for transparency, but we're also able to deploy technical assistance that is targeted, that is tailored for a specific country context, delivered in countries, as well as virtual and in the context of regional workshops in partnership with many of you here. And also helping countries join the dots between the reporting obligations, the development of climate action plans, and the mobilization of climate finance to be able to fulfill these climate action plans. And under this, a key important part is also the readiness for carbon markets, all of which are pillars that UNDP is supporting in multiple countries. So under our GEF programming, we have supported 47 countries to produce their BTRs, 29 of which have already been submitted. And we also channel resources to 35 countries for the CBIT to have additional capacity building for institutionalizing transparency, as we have mentioned. I would like to note that also through the government, support of the government of Belgium, we really have been able to sort of supercharge the support to the Francophone and the Lusophone clusters of countries by delivering in-country support in 60 different in-country support missions in over 25 countries, and delivered 37 climate transparency reports in partnership with the Global Support Program implemented by UNEP and funded by the GEF. This has been a key important partnership for us to be able to really propel the support to these two clusters of countries. We've done some preliminary analysis of the BTRs that have been submitted under the portfolio of UNDP in order to be able to allow countries to visualize those sectors that have been lagging behind and the sectors that have actually reflected a lot of progress in previous NDCs. And this has proven tremendous as a tool for countries now that they are preparing the targets under the third generation of NDCs. We've seen that work quite well, and we're very proud to be able to work on that matter. And lastly, I will close by identifying 4 key lessons that we've reflected on in our work in the past few years. So first, it's been said, transparency is a policy enabler, and it does not stop at the report. It has actually sort of forced partners that were not there before. For example, and it was said, I think also by representatives earlier, the line ministries cooperating more with the finance ministries, the planning ministries, and the economic ministries, and also the public and the private sector. And this really will signify whether we have more efficient policymaking. The second one is that transparency can enable the unlocking of additional climate finance by enabling trust from investors and financiers, and BTRs are a tool that can help really lay bare those areas where investment is still needed, and those areas that, thanks to having climate investment and climate funds, have been able to have progress in their NDC. The third one is that deploying, and as you said, consultancies aside, deploying the support that is tailored and not like one size fits all, and in the country's own language has really paid off. We've seen a lot of participation being boosted in the Francophone and Lusophone clusters thanks to this approach. And we do think that it is very important to let go of the one size fits all approach and really focus on the country context when we provide the technical assistance. And the last one is that digitalization, although it's been piloted and used in many countries, and we've supported a few of them on digital MRV and digital NDC tracking, I think it's a tool that has been underutilized and needs to be more streamlined. Also, as we move forward into compiling all of this data into the global stocktake at some point, hopefully collectively with the partners around here, we can also crack that nut of having more instrumental digitalization for more efficient reporting, compiling, and being able to see how that fits into GST, for example. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia, and first an applause. And I think it is really, yeah, you just made it on time, thank you. And I think it is really, really great to hear these key messages, because yes, we should see this system as a whole, as the NDC, we are implementing, how we are identifying indicators, how we are tracking, how we are reporting in ETF, and how it is feeding into the global stocktake. And altogether, how parties can unlock like additional investment opportunities, how they can use this information for their internal policy making, how to inform their domestic perspectives as well. These are very important points and key lessons, so thank you as well. Now I would like to invite Mirella from FAO for her intervention, please.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much again for all of you. From here, you look beautiful. It's a massive number of people that they are really committed and really happy to see all of you. It's my second time here in Korea, and I would like really to thank you so much, the Korea government, for this support. Always present, always really on the front end on transparency, and that has been really, really massive. So, why I'm here joining two other organizations that they're working mostly on UN environment, and the UNDP that they've been discussing. At FAO, we are really a little bit different agency. We are a specialized agency. We are working on agriculture. So we talk about all the different issues on climate change, biodiversity loss, that is affecting the agri-food system. The agri-food system are really in a very critical juncture right now, and they need really to take over a full transformation, a transformation that had to be equitable transition towards a low emission, resilience, gender responsive. We have really to work hard on that. Climate change and the variability of climate change is really affecting further the agri-food system. So this transformation, what means? Means finance, unfortunately. And to build this finance means really unlocking trust and accountability. We hear these words a lot, but what that means for the agri-food system and for agriculture. At FAO, we talk about agriculture, but we meant crop, livestock, forestry, fishery, aquaculture. So we meant the full set of sectors. But the problem of accessing to finance in agriculture is really due to the limited availability of data and the real commitment also from having the Ministry of Agriculture, Forest Authority be part of the discourse in the climate change. So that is how we work. We really thank the Jeff for helping us also to reach out our countries. We are supporting not the huge number as UNDP is facing. We are very small numbers, but we are supporting countries in accessing funds for CBAT and the enabling activity. But also we would like to thank the Jeff also for understanding the needs, also supporting 2 global projects at FAO, working exactly on the forest aspects and on the overall agriculture, agri-food system. Because there is a massive need of really looking at how the country can address the problem of being trustable and accountable with the limited data that they have. So there is a massive need of really improving in country the work in the agriculture sector and the data from the agriculture sector. Why we have this limited data? First of all, we are talking about farmers, a massive number of people that they have a very fragmented. So aggregating information, collecting this information, it's a really complicated, it's a really difficult. It's not a sector that is having a standardized way of reporting. We have also a sector that is also relying a lot on the informality of the sector. We have farmers that they just don't necessarily collect information on their input, the way how they are managing agriculture, the way that they are applying a certain kind of practices. So, and on top of that, we have institutional and capacity barriers. So far, we have also not very clear role and responsibility in who is going to manage information for the agricultural system. And we also have a look at the innovation. We are looking at land use change. We are looking at forestry. We are looking at information that is more remote sensing based. So there is a lot of these issues that is around the agricultural sector. So for this reason, we really help country through the global project, through the national projects that we are doing, thanks to the Jeff support, in addressing this technical capacity and institutional barrier at the country level. Our main concern, together with my colleague here from the Forest Division, Rocio Conto, we are really working hard to institutionalize this process at the country level of collecting information, reporting, digesting. But for the agricultural sector, this is not only reporting to the UNFCCC. This is a way how to start getting a sense where there are potential for unlocking financing, the climate financing. So it's a different partner for the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. So we needed to change also the behavioral of the Ministry of Agriculture to understand how really to unlock this finance. They talk about productivities. So now they needed to switch and talk about the environmental concern. That the agricultural sector is holding as one of the sectors that is emitting emissions, but on the other side, that is also just is affected by the climate change. So we say that we think that FAO that is very critical to unlock the finance for the agriculture sector, and that is done for building a little bit more trust and accountability, and delivering also a massive effort in many people, as many farmers, that they can improve their livelihood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mirella. Yes, food is our basic livelihood need, so I think that is very important perspective, so thank you for sharing. And now I would like to invite Henning for his views. Henning, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and very much happy to see so many friends here. Good morning, everybody. And many thanks to the government of Korea for hosting us here in Songdo. I must admit that I have special connection to Songdo because I spent several months here at the beginning of the GCF, when the GCF was set up, and the trees in Central Park across the street were not quite my height yet. So it's a long time ago, and I'm happy to see that much has developed here. So happy to be back. And I'm especially pleased also that we are able to organize this Global Transparency Forum as a joint event among partners. And I want to thank the partners for the excellent collaboration that we've had, because last year when everybody was busy with the BTR, I think we had too many separate events. And I was always saying, well, we shouldn't fly people around to different events because they need to be at home to do the work and write their BTRs. So I'm happy that this year we have joined forces, and I think it's a good movement towards collaboration and partnership among support providers, because I think there's not enough support out there, but the support that different agencies provide needs to be well aligned and coordinated in order to be helpful to the countries. And that's really what we want to do and what we're working hard to achieve. Special thanks I want to express to Ketsive Komalo. She's somewhere hiding behind the scenes, but she has really been instrumental in making this possible and making this joint event possible. So I really appreciate her support, and if she's not in the room, I'll hope somebody can tell her afterwards. No, she's hiding somewhere. Okay, there she is. Since we are here following the political segment, I want to emphasize the policy role of transparency. And I want to remind everybody of the objective of the enhanced transparency framework. If you read again the first sentence of Article 13, you will see two objectives. One is to ensure accountability, which is, of course, the reporting function of the enhanced transparency framework. But the other one is to foster, to promote effective implementation. And that is really a role that is often forgotten. Transparency is there to directly support the NDCs, to build the basis, the foundation for the ambition and the effectiveness of implementation of the Paris Agreement. And several speakers referred to it in the session earlier, but I think it's really important to underline it and to emphasize this. And it links to what ICAT does, because we have the A in our name, which stands for action, and our focus is on action transparency. So our focus is really on supporting countries in building the basis, the foundation for effective NDCs. When you look at the Paris Agreement, I think everybody agrees that the Paris Agreement is currently not on track to delivering. We have two problems. One is a problem of ambition that is often highlighted, but the second problem is one of a lack of implementation. And we have seen so many NDCs that are not turned into reality because the infrastructure is missing, the collaboration at the government levels is missing, and that's a function that transparency can very well play. And in my view, that's the role of transparency in the Paris Agreement, to actually help bring the Paris Agreement on track to meeting its objectives. So ICAT is supporting countries in doing that. I want to highlight one example from Brazil, because Brazil has been very much pushing for ambitious NDCs, and we've been working with Brazil to develop sectoral implementation plans. That is the national implementation agenda in different sectors. And we had a second project with Brazil to actually build a just transition framework around these implementation plans, because just transition is necessary in order to be able to be ambitious. So just two examples of what ICAT does, and we work with many of the countries that I see represented here in the room. And while I think we should all be proud and celebrate the success of the BTRs, we have to recognize that the NDCs are actually the central instrument of the Paris Agreement. And we shouldn't think about BTRs supporting the NDCs, but actually think about the transparency framework to be built in an integrated manner to support, first of all, climate action in the countries through the NDCs, ideally. And then you have actually something to report on, because you can report on progress in climate action, progress with the NDCs, and that is then the content and an interesting content of the BTRs. So ICAT stands ready to work with many countries and many more countries than we currently do, and we are happy to be here. And of course, I look forward to engaging with everybody over the coming 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Henning. Thank you so much. And I also thank you for reminding the NDC implementation plans. We are also receiving many calls on, because what we see is when a country could prepare an NDC implementation plan, they can steer better and more effectively the entire process. So that is really valuable. And I also believe there's not enough support out there. So I think since we have Jeff here, I believe all the colleagues, as well as the implementing agencies, I believe all the participants who will here have the chance to see how other resources they have, which actually already a few are mentioned by our panelists here. So first of all, and I would like to invite an applause to all our panelists. This was a very rich and constructive set of perspectives and interventions. Thank you. And now we are very timely. No, Mirella, no, please sit down. We have like last 20 minutes actually. So I would like to open the floor for a few questions, maybe just like 3 questions in total. They can be directed to one of the panelists, or it can be a general question to all of the panelists. And when you are given the floor, please very briefly introduce yourself. And if you're directing your question to one of our panelists, please also clearly state that. We will collect now 3 questions. Yes, we have a microphone there. If anyone can raise their hands, I really can't see. Okay, maybe there are no questions. Yes, it is early. Some of you have traveled from other countries. Okay, please, Ms. Jung.
Sorry for taking mic 3 times this morning, but when you are preparing your questions, I'm just thank all the excellent panelists about their knowledge, their insights about the transparency. As the ICAP member mentioned, that the BTR is not just for the NDC implementation and just checking fact sheet, but the preparing next NDC, preparing the climate ambition. This is really important issue. When I prepared the Korea's first BTR, I tried my best to understand what it means about each chapter, not just the climate mitigation, NDC progress, the adaptation part, the finance part, the finance technology, and the capacity building part. And I took all courses of the BTR expert reviewer, the training, but I failed 2 parts in agriculture and LULUCF. It was too difficult for me. As the Mirella mentioned about it's not just about the numbers, but also opportunity for the climate finance. But I understand that when I conducted the training for greenhouse gas inventory for developing countries, they were very interested in this part, agriculture, LULUCF waste, because they have lots of potential in this area. But the data quality as Mirella mentioned, in Korea, again, the agriculture have like the more than around 20 million tons in Korea's emission, very little. But when we approach the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, it's huge. It's so difficult to make more ambitious target because of the strong opposition from the farmers. So and also about the data quality Mirella mentioned. In these days, many uses the satellite data. They are all talking about the AI. So what do you think about those approaches to gather more reliable data on the agriculture and the forestry? That's my question. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question. And indeed, at FAO, we are supporting the monitoring of the data in the agriculture and the land use change and forestry through remote sensing information. We also set up several activities in that regards. We really believe that is an option because surveys or census, they are very expensive. They are really time consuming. We are talking about a high number of people that had to be interviewed. So remote sensing and in artificial intelligence is something that we are exploring and helping the country in moving. So that is where I was saying also innovation, but innovation not only from this technological perspective, but also innovation in thinking differently in the agricultural sector. So absolutely, remote sensing is becoming for us, not only for the forest and the land use change, but also we are applying a lot for the rice system that is very important in Asian country. We know very well that is causing the massive number of methane. We are also monitoring also the livestock sector through remote sensing and through other different technologies. So we are exploring, in this niche, we are exploring how to improve the quality of data through the different methodologies and technologies that are available. So absolutely, that is where we are helping the country in doing this work.
Henning, please.
Yeah, I would also be happy to respond because I think it's important when thinking about agriculture to think about adaptation. Adaptation is often the entry point for the agricultural ministry to become interested because they face some real problems. And I mean, we've had several projects as ICAT on agriculture. One nice one to illustrate the point is with Kenya, where we are working with the Ministry of Agriculture, and they built, first of all, an adaptation monitoring and evaluation framework for the agriculture sector. And then based on that, the next step was looking at the crop sector and see what are policies that can be applied, maybe not to reduce emissions, but at least to stop emissions from growing. And we always emphasize when working with an agriculture sector that an assessment should not only be made of the GHG impact of policies, but also how the policies impact development priorities. And food security is, of course, a critical one in the agriculture sector. So keeping food security as a priority, but then keeping emissions controlled is a way to actually work with the agriculture sector. And there are policies and measures out there that can be applied to do that.
Thank you, Henning. Fred, please. Sorry, can someone help with, now it's working. Yeah.
Thank you, Tugba, and thanks to the panelists. There are not many questions. Allow me to ask just one question. My name is Frederick Ouma, and I'm from Kenya. If you read some of the decisions we've taken in the UNFCCC, especially from Glasgow, we've made an attempt to shift the way transparency is implemented in light with what Henning mentioned. And we've been very consistent in highlighting the need to put in place sustainable national reporting systems. Because implementing the ETF would then require that to be able to live to the expectations of tracking the nationally determined contributions, but ensuring that the biennial nature of transparency relies on existing teams, tools, whether electronic and embedded institutional capacity. And I would be interested to know how the different implementing entities have taken up this challenge in working with countries, and not only to deliver the one-off reports, but to ensure that countries are having proper institutional arrangements with amended national capacities to be able to effectively implement the enhanced transparency framework in a manner in which it would help achieve its twin objectives as highlighted by Henning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fred. Before the answers, I also know we have some online participants actually. I want to invite if anyone has a question who are joining us remotely. If they have a question, I guess they can raise hand or write in the chat box. And I don't see any other question actually in the room. So if we receive another question from the chat, maybe we can just direct it, or otherwise this would be the last question, and this is directed to all of our colleagues here. So perhaps we can start with Esteban.
Thank you. So I guess going back to what Claudia was mentioning, there is not a one-size-fits. So what we're seeing is that with CVIT, for example, the capacity building initiative for transparency, it's quite diverse, and it's open for countries to decide how to use these resources that are additional to the STAR resources, the country's allocation, to direct it to some of the needs that the country has. So what we have seen is that countries can complement areas that, for example, one that comes to mind is IT infrastructure, something that is many times expensive, that requires planning. So what we can do is provide these type of resources so countries can start to put in the different pieces of the puzzle so they can work on these reporting systems. The term itself, it's quite broad. I remember in 2023, we received guidance to look into how we're helping reporting systems. And we actually had to come back to UNFCCC and ask, like, can you please tell us what's your definition for it? And then it became, can be different. It's actually a quite big puzzle. And what we saw in that case was that CVIT investments were used by countries in different areas. Some of them were focusing in strengthening capacities of their greenhouse gas inventory teams. Some of them were using it for this specific IT infrastructure investments, adaptation, NDC tracking, you name it. And what we see, and I mentioned it earlier, is that then when they come with a second CVIT project, they say, okay, for example, we develop a national enhanced transparency framework system. We were able to accomplish all of this in our first CVIT project. We still have some gaps, so we need additional financing to continue to develop the entire thing. And it's very interesting to see the progress. And of course, it's not a one-off and may require a few additional investments and also together with the partners. but then it's building those capacities that can be useful for the country. So what I would invite countries here is to be strategic about these resources and use it so they can make your lives easier, because I know your job is quite complex. It's very technical. It's not like anybody can come and do it. So it's making a strategic use of these resources and knowing that there is enough freedom to use it in your advantage.
Thank you, Esteban. Claudia, please.
Maybe just allow me to follow up, if I may. And thank you very much, Fred, for your question. I think when it comes to the resources that are made available, and in large part by the GEF, on what we call CBIT. So these resources are made available to be able to build institutional frameworks, going beyond the report and having resources to build institutional frameworks or legal frameworks to achieve MRB. And every country, as you said, owns that differently. But I think one key thing that allows the country to frame this in a way that is institutionalized is the incentives. And I can think of two incentives. And I also can speak a little bit of my experience. I'm from Mexico, and I was involved in some MRB 15 years ago, and I can tell you about the incentives. So two incentives I can think of. One is whether or not transparency will allow you, as we've said in many instances already, how it will allow you to have stronger systems for example, mobilizing climate finance. And not only from the international finance, but also from your own domestic, public, and private finance. That is really important. If you're able to tell the line ministries that by having a strong system of MRB, if we go back before transparency was known as transparency, but of MRB, you're going to be able to channel resources from the private sector, for example, to be able to solve the equation. That is a huge incentive. A lot of countries are actually, and I can cite, for example, Lebanon, who have cited their country platforms of country facilities. Lebanon has the LGIF, Green Investment Facility. They have cited this as part of their BTR because they see this, and Brazil also has a country platform, I believe we'll speak about this later. They see this as a way to be able to transparency in how the financial flows and capital flows can be channeled to be able to then have additional ways to mobilize finance. So that's one. And the second one is the legal framework. Some countries here have actually enshrined the MRV system or the reporting system into a legal framework, compliance as well. For example, INTOSAI, which is a global body of supreme audit institutions, they came up with this tool called the Climate Scanner 2 years ago. I think they launched it last year at COP29, and they'll definitely talk about it in COP30. And it allows for auditing institutions to be able to see which bodies in the government and in the private sector are complying with NDC and which are not. And that is a huge incentive. So if you have good transparency systems, you're able to have better compliance as well. In Mexico, just to close the loop, about 15 years ago when we were trying to map out the MRV, the only ways to get the Chamber of Iron and Steel and the Chamber of Cement to listen on how to reduce emissions through new technologies and whatnot was actually to say, if you keep doing this and we're able to track it properly, we are able to also obtain available climate finance for countries in the developing world like Mexico to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And that was a huge incentive to move the needle, at least back then.
Thank you, Claudia. Yes, please, Escher.
Thank you. No, thanks for the question, colleague from Kenya. Not much to add on what others have said, but I think firstly to point out that the rhythm is intense. Every 2 years, you start one, submit one, and you're already working on the next. So we know that it's very tough for developing countries to meet this rhythm. I think on a practical level, the agencies here, we're very interested to work with the GEF and yourselves to understand how there's always one proposal going to the GEF. So we're trying to avoid this or minimize this gap in financing between one capacity building initiative for transparency CBIT project and the next. And we know that the CBIT projects are where we can have that longer term initiative, which isn't focused just on producing a report, but has that broader scope and more flexibility, as other colleagues have mentioned. So that's really key. And then I think there, to draw together what colleagues are saying is, in terms of, because the GEF always says, how can we get sustainability beyond GEF financing, right? It's not very easy. We know that we can use these CBIT funds I think the brilliant thing about civic funds is that they're funds for the ministry to do ministry work. So they really, you bring them in and you can really use them. But what happens if the GEF stopped funding this, which hopefully it can't because it's a convention or it's a Paris Agreement requirement. But I think there is, the key is how can you demonstrate or generate value through this system for other ministries, as pointed out on SEAL or agriculture or others. How can you highlight, how can you get other ministries actually saying, I want to use your system because it's helping me? And if you got that going, which is not easy, and not talking about an IT system, but talking about the broad system on transparency, but if you got that going, then you've got ministries you might find a way then to get public funds, as well as the private, but public funds into supporting the system to keep going, because it's now supporting other ministries to do its work. I think we here understand that the value and the power that this system could have eventually, but I think we also acknowledge that at the moment it's not there yet for the other ministries, but that's, I think, the long-term vision that we have to look for. Thanks.
Thank you, Escher. A few last remarks from Mirella.
Yes, we are talking about sustainability, and here we are talking about institutions, but there is also the issues of sustainability of the technical capacity at country level. So what we are facing is training many people that unfortunately leave their job, and we end up to have new people coming in. So that is what we are facing with many countries. The sustainability can be maintained, or the technical capacity, and that is what at FAO we are working a lot, also including the academia and the research institute in this discourse. They are a little bit more stable in the country. They can, and they have a great expertise in the country, especially in the agricultural sector. They are the experts that they can tell you really the story. So what we are trying to do is including academia in the discourse, bringing them in the governmental discussions, having them not only supporting with their technical expertise, but also as a potential trainer of the trainers in the future. So we started to also thinking about how to sustain that kind of technical capacity in the country, having people that they can train the future generation of transparency experts that they will work at the governmental level. So I think that also academia has a very great role in building the sustainability in the country.
Thank you, Mirella. So colleagues, distinguished participants, actually, I'm sure there are a few more questions. I already see a few, but I would really very strongly encourage you to find us, reach us, and engage with us over the next days, because we are here for you as well to have these discussions. So please use every opportunity. And actually now this brings us to the end of the panel discussion as well as the high-level segment. I would like to thank all the speakers as well as the audience. Thank you for the very important perspectives. And now I hand over to Mariana. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Tugba. You did amazingly well as a moderator. I think that for the third, we have a replacement in case. Thank you very much, Tugba. Thank you to our amazing panelists and, of course, the high-level speakers this morning. And thank you. You are, in the end, the protagonist of this event. You in the room and those watching us online via Zoom. Thank you very much to everyone online. Now we will close that communication, but we'll stay in the room for a couple of family photos. We'll do one first with the speakers, then we'll do a full room photo. The photographer will be on stage and the photo will be taken of you sitting. And please smile, not only for the photos, but also because you are being live sketched. So we have two amazing illustrators, two visual artists at the back who are taking drawings throughout the 3 days. So you will be able to see that. Actually, you can see that online already if you find the link on the WUBA application. So without further ado, let's do a couple of family photos. First, a big applause to warm up our panelists. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. You can take your seat. We are going to take our seat. Full family, full family. Hi, Asha.